Okay, writing out the scales question. Here we're getting a little bit more advanced purely because we're using some scales that are a little bit further around the circle of fifths, which means there are more flats and sharps to worry about and things to check that we've got right. So what do we have here? Well, we have a D flat sitting here on our bass clef. And so for this question, we need to use crotchets and write out one octave ascending of the major scale that begins on the given note, which is D flat. Do not use a key signature, but write in all the necessary accidentals. Now, D flat is a key signature that has 5 flats in the key signature. So we need to remember all of those as we're writing them in. But now, to start with, let's just get our notes in. And of course, we need one of every flavour. And I've, of course, written exactly where I need to put my D flat. Brilliant. You wouldn't write on the paper in this way, obviously. I am doing that just to demonstrate what's going on. Try and get our crotchet stems looking relatively neat. Okay, I think that will do. And of course, because this is D flat, we're going to need a D flat here at the top of the scale. But we're going to need to find these other 4 flats as well. So the 5 flats that we have in D flat are B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and G flat. Now we've taken care of the D flat, but we're going to need an E flat, that's for sure. And I didn't do that very well. Sorry, I'm not very neat with my pen and paper on the screen. Okay, we don't need an F flat. We do need a G flat. And we do need an A flat. And we do need a B flat. So it just shows how important it is that we know what ingredients, what flats and sharps we need in our key signature so that it's really easy for us to just stick these in here if we're asked to write something that doesn't have a key signature. Okay, moving on to part B, and this is getting slightly more tricky straight away because we see the return of our good friend Mr. Alto clef, and for the 99% of you who don't play the viola, this is going to be more difficult because this is not a clef you are used to using every day on your instrument, and so we have to be doubly sure we know exactly what we're writing on this clef here. So anyway, question says, using crotchets, write 1 octave descending of the harmonic minor scale that begins on the given note. Now here actually doesn't say anything about key signatures, but I'm going to assume because it's written in as an accidental here that they still want us to not use a key signature, but instead write the thing in. Now the first question you should be asking yourself as soon as you've worked out what this note is, and this note is a C sharp. And if we can prove that well, if you want to count up from the middle line, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So this is our C sharp. We need to be asking ourselves, well, what is the relative major of that minor key? Because that will help us with all of the accidentals that we're going to need for the thing. Now, the way we get to our relative major is either we know the circle of fifths off by heart, or we just know, oh, C sharp minor, yeah, relative major is E major, or we can use the going up 3 semitones method. So if we go up one semitone from C sharp, we will get to D, 2 semitones to D sharp, 3 semitones to E, and so that's telling us that the relative major of this scale is E. Now the key signature for E major and C sharp minor is 4 sharps. And so as I said, we're getting a little bit further round the circle of fifths. This is kind of like the 4 o'clock position, somewhere around there. And so the sharps we need for this scale are F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. But first, before we worry too much about those, let's just get in one of every note. Now we're going descending this time, so we're going in this direction. So we'll go to a B. Oh, I didn't do that very well. Sorry. Let's try again. Try and get my ledger line a bit straighter. That was pretty good. B, A, G, F, E, D, and C. Now we can straight away put in our C sharp because we know that's going to be there, and we can get our hopefully beautifully straight stems in place. Okay, that's good. And then we need to get our sharps and flats in place. So let's just go through from this C. So we don't need a B sharp, that's not in our key signature. We don't need an A sharp, that's not in our key signature. We do need a G sharp. So let's get that in. We do also need an F sharp, so let's get that in. And we also need a D sharp. So let's get that in. So that gives us our 4 sharps that we would need from the key signature: the C sharp, the F sharp, the G sharp, and the D sharp. But there is one more thing to do, and hopefully this part of the question is setting alarm bells off, saying, well, we've got to do that thing that we do to make the harmonic minor scale the harmonic minor scale. And what do we do? Well, we raise the 7th note of the scale. And this is a really easy way to go wrong, because I wonder if any of you are thinking, well, here's the 7th note of the scale, let's go and raise that. And if we raise that D sharp, a semitone, we're going to get, well, an E maybe, or a D double sharp. No, because we're going in the opposite direction. So you've got to remember that because we're going downwards, the opposite way from the direction probably we would normally think of a scale going up, we're really doing this, aren't we? We're going in this direction. So this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, and this is 6, and this is 7. So it's really this note here that needs to be raised 1 semitone. Now this is a B, and if we want to raise a B 1 semitone, you might be thinking, well, we're going to get C. Well, we are, sort of. But we can't have a C in this scale. We can't make this into a C, because that would clash with our C sharp. And don't forget, we have to have 1 of every single letter name in our scale. But there is a way around this, of course. We can use the enharmonic equivalent, as we saw earlier on in the exam, and we can make this a B sharp. And if we make this a B sharp, what will happen is that we will still manage to have 1 of every letter name in our scale, but also we will have done that special thing we have to do to a harmonic minor scale, which is raise the 7th note by 1 semitone. And if we manage to do that, then I think we have successfully completed part B, even though it was in the minor, it was in the minor, and it was also in the alto clef. So good for us. Anyway, moving forward to part C, put accidentals in front of the notes that need them to form a descending scale of E melodic minor. Cool. This is quite straightforward. So, treble clef again, good times, so we don't need to worry too much about being able to read the thing. We're looking for E minor. Probably first thing to work out, what's the relative major? Well, it's G major. What's the key signature for G major? Well, it's 1 sharp, F sharp. And so let's just whack that in straight away. And then we've got to ask ourselves, well, do we have to do any of that, raising the 7th note or flattening the 7th note, or all of that business that we do in a melodic minor scale? Well, what happens in a melodic minor scale, different to the harmonic minor scale version that we just looked at in the previous question? In this version of the minor scale, we raise the 6th and 7th notes on the way up, and we flatten them again. We get rid of those accidentals on the way down. And so because here we're going down, we just don't need to worry about any of that stuff. We just need to worry about making sure we've got the sharps and flats from the key signature there, and that's what we've done. So in fact, this scale is relatively straightforward, because we're going in a downward direction. We don't have to change any of the notes. As long as we've got our key signature accidentals in there, this will be absolutely right. And indeed, here is E melodic minor descending over an octave, so that's really easy. And then write in the key signature and accidentals to form a scale of F melodic minor. Okay, cool. So this is actually testing out the same idea that we just used in the last question. So first things first, we need to work out what's our key signature for F melodic minor. And the way we can do that is, of course, the 3 semitone steps, or we could know it from the circle of fifths, or we could just know it. Going up from F, we're going to go 1 semitone to F sharp or G flat, 1 semitone to G, and 1 semitone to G sharp or A flat. And we tend to use the A flat key signature for F minor purely because it has fewer flats than the G sharp one does, or well, G sharp one has lots of sharps, and the A flat has slightly fewer flats. Now, it still has 4 flats, and those are B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. So the first things first, because for the first time, I think, in this series of videos, we have to actually write the key signature. Let's do that now. So let's get our B flat. No, it didn't do that very well again. You've got to be really careful, because people love just picking you off and go, oh, you didn't quite get that on the line. I'm going to take a mark off because I'm mean and I wasn't hugged enough as a child or something, I don't know. But you've got to not give these mean examiners any excuse at all to take marks away from you. So we've taken care of a lot of the accidentals that we need for this scale by using the key signature. So if you look as we go from the beginning, we go F, G, well, A flat, good, we've got that in the key signature, B flat, got that in the key signature, C, D flat, good, got that in the key signature, E flat, got that in the key signature, F, and so on. Now, What happens though, because we're using our F melodic minor, is that we need to do some of that sharpening and flattening business. So again, in the melodic minor flavour of the scale, we sharpen the 6th and 7th notes on the way up, and we flatten them again, or we normalise them, make them what they were before on the way down. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to take a look at our 6th and 7th notes, which are this D and E. 5, 6 and 7, so it's these two that we're going to do something with. We're going to take each of these and we're going to raise them by 1 semitone. Now the trick is, of course, to be very sure what this is before we start raising it. It looks like a D, but of course, because of the key signature, it is in fact a D flat. So that's what it currently is. Now if we want to raise that by a semitone, we raise a D flat by a semitone, we get a D natural. So that's why we're going to put that in there. And exactly the same is true here, in that we've got our E flat because of the key signature, so we're going to stick in the natural sign, which turns that E flat into an E natural. Now, this isn't the way we stay. If we just come here, you'll notice that we're still in the same bar. This is kind of a bar of indeterminate length, but it is still the same bar. So we're going to have to cancel out the effects of these accidentals on the way down, and that's exactly what we'll do. And the way we can do that is just stick the flats back in. So there's our E flat, and there's our D flat. And hopefully, without too much trouble, we've been able to create this scale ascending and descending of F melodic minor, where we've raised the 6th and 7th notes on the way up, we've flattened them on the way down, and we've made the rest of the notes correct by putting in the correct key signature for this key. Absolutely excellent. Are we done? Yes, we're done. I'll see you in question 5.